Sometimes I think it's actually scarier to realize and believe in the infiniteness of possibilities and the control that you have in the development of your path than it is to believe in fate or destiny or some magical being outside of yourself being the one to control and maneuver and manipulate your path. The truth is that it's somewhere really in between. But lately, I have been doing a lot of analyzing, a lot of processing when it comes to the weight or non weight of daily decisions or big decisions. I feel like I'm at a point in my life where there are a lot of choices that I need to be making, day to day choices, big life choices, and at the same time balancing this duality of the control and power that I have, the sovereignty that I have in my own life, and the knowledge that there is a higher self within me. There is a God, a source, a greater flow, a universal collective flow that is also maneuvering. That really and truly the truth falls right there in the middle. The ability to balance with the flow and also know that you do have power. You do have the power day to day to make choices. I tend to get into, what's the word? You've got fight, you got flight, and you got freeze, and I am the queen of freeze, especially when I sense a lot of options, when there's a lot of choices or there's a lot of decisions, and there isn't necessarily a right or wrong one. Sometimes I like to just sit and fluctuate in the in between of, okay, well, I'm just going to wait for something outside of me to make a choice. I'm realizing how important it is to actually be the one to make the choice. That really and truly there is no right or wrong. And that can sometimes be the scariest thing of all, is to realize that there is no right or wrong choice necessarily. Of course, we have our objective rights and wrongs. Of course, it is wrong every time to kill someone, and it is right every time to spread love. That is an objective truth. But what about in our own lives? What about in our day to day lives where there isn't necessarily a right or wrong? That in fact, sometimes the right is just to make a choice, regardless of what that choice is. I'm talking about those moments. I've done a lot in my life of making certain choices mean more than they do. I am grateful that I have this beautiful, brilliant brain that finds and makes meaning in things that otherwise wouldn't have any. But sometimes I tend to make meaning in situations where it ends up becoming a crippling realization. Ends up throwing more bullshit on something than really needs to be there. I'll give you a brilliant example. The other week, I was wanting to film one of my goddess guidance videos, and I was sitting down, and I realized that my back camera was broken. Don't know how that happened. It just stopped working. The lighting sucked ass. I could not figure out the right angles and the right lighting because I wasn't working with my back camera anymore. I had to work with my front. It was like every little thing as I was sitting down attempting to film something that I had every intention of doing. I had spent my time researching and meditating on and really excited to share with y'all the things that I had learned and the ways that I know it will empower you and myself. And every tiny little thing kept going wrong. My first 30 minutes of filming, my mic wasn't on. And I didn't realize that until after I finished filming what I called take number 1. And then I already told you the back camera shit was happening, the lighting was fucked up, and there was a younger version of me, there was an older version of me, there was a version of me that existed not that long ago that would have took that, every tiny little thing, as a sign that, oh, maybe I'm just not supposed to film, or oh, it would have done me over. It would have, an entire breakdown would have ensued. And sure, there was validation in the frustration because that shit'll piss me off. But I made the choice in that moment to persevere, to continue to film, to sit down and do what I had the intentions of doing. And if I had chosen not to, guess what? That wouldn't have been the wrong choice necessarily. I probably would have set up the next day and just done it again and figured it out another time. But in that moment, my choice to continue to persevere and do the thing, it was so rewarding. And it wasn't this grand thing in my life. It wasn't like the difference between if I didn't film and if I did, my entire life was going to change in that moment. But making that tiny little choice, it was when I removed the weight of the decision. And I was like, is it really that big of a deal? No. Do I want to see what happens if I sit here and persevere just out of curiosity? Yes. Yes. I've been having many, many conversations with myself, especially as it comes to decisions and choices and things that I am choosing to do for myself in my life just because I am curious. That's the energy that I've been trying to bring into situations where I typically would have myself in a freeze moment because I'd overwhelm myself with the options in front of me. That sometimes, like I said in the beginning, sometimes it is scarier to realize that your options are infinite, that you are limitless. That sometimes when you remove fate or destiny, not to say that I don't believe in that, because I believe that the balance is somewhere in between, but when you realize that your life is made in the tiny little decisions, and not because they are so important, but because you meet yourself, you get to know yourself in the moments that you choose something new. I do believe that there is a universal flow. I know for a fact that we all stem from the same beautiful source energy, that we are not separate from one another. We are not separate from the trees and the birds and the leaves and every living, breathing thing and everything in between. Every tiny ounce of energy that exists, every atom, every molecule is all a part of something massive, something beautiful, something with a consistent flow. I also know that the universe's intention is to balance and adapt with free will and the fact that every single one of us has a choice. That's the gift. That's the gift of free will is yes, there is a universal flow. Yes, there is what I believe to be a divine higher self, a higher being, whatever you want to call it, a God who has the best interest in all of us on its mind and on its hearts and wants everybody to succeed and is constantly flowing things to work out in our favor. And that's where serendipity and magic and all of those things come into play and all of that. And you can choose every single day to not line up with that natural flow. And everybody's flow in that looks different, you know? Right now I'm at a point in my life where I feel like some of the smaller decisions I'm making are actually more important than I think they are. The moments that I do choose to sit down and film, even if it isn't the end of the world if I don't. The moments where I do send out emails to creators that I want to collaborate with, even if they never respond. Like I said, sometimes you meet yourself in the choices that you make now that a previous version of yourself wouldn't make. It's interesting at this point in my life where I feel like I've really fostered a sense of confidence in myself in a way that I don't think I've ever really experienced in my life, where I'm giving myself the space to get to know me, who I have become through the course of a healing journey and diving deep. It's liberating. It's exhilarating to witness who I am becoming day to day to day because I'm allowing myself to do that in ways that I otherwise haven't. And what's even cooler is to witness what that version of me, this version of me, when I let her lead me and guide me in this time, how natural certain choices and decisions are. Choices and decisions that I used to torture myself over, going back and forth, hot and cold. How many times I tried to sit down and start a YouTube and gave up because the individual devotional moments where I could show up for myself in that way, I chose not to. And it wasn't necessarily a wrong choice not to do that in the past. And that's where we have to be so careful, where we avoid shame and blame in times where we probably could have made better choices. There were probably a million times where I should have set my phone up and just sat down and allowed myself to film and talk and witness what happens, even if it's not perfect, even if I don't ever end up posting it. And there were a lot of times where I chose not to because deep down I didn't believe myself capable of the very thing I'm wanting to build, or because there were a million other things that I didn't realize I was limiting myself with, that I would use as momentary excuses. And I say that at this point with no shame or blame because timing is everything. The universe adapts to us. There is no missed opportunity if the opportunity is for you. I know that at this point in my life, I am 1,000 times more confident sitting down, filming, and talking my shit than I was 2 years ago, a year ago. That in a lot of ways, I'm glad that I waited to discover who I could become, and also who knows if the discovery process would have gone a little faster had I made the decision to witness what I was capable of sooner. I don't know, sometimes that's the confusing thing about right and wrong, is maybe there is an objective right or wrong, but not necessarily in the strict, rigid way that we're so used to associating right and wrong with, you know? Like, let's say the right choice is whatever decision your higher self, the God within you, would choose or is guiding you to choose. And let's say the wrong choice is something other than that, whatever your intuition is guiding you towards, whatever alignment is guiding you towards. Let's say the wrong choice is to choose something outside of that. The cool thing about all of that is, guess what adapts to that? Life. I feel like every time where I maybe chose the unaligned choice, my path ended up just correcting itself eventually. And that's where I feel like fate and destiny come into play. You know, I don't think that they have more control or power over you and your life than you do. But I do think that your soul, your essence, your spirit, prior to choosing to inhabit this very specific human body, had a beautiful intention. It had lessons it wanted to learn. It had experiences that it wanted to experience. It had archetypes of relationships that it predetermined itself to experience for certain lessons and energies that you would expose yourself to certain discoveries that would come. I believe that there is a soul intention before you come on this earth. And I also believe that you choosing to be physical, you being in this human body, you making day-to-day choices is what is allowing that soul to discover what that actually looks like. That's where it's teamwork. That's where it's both things. That's where it's you getting to the space where you can really feel yourself, feel your intuition, know your heart and your truest desires. Just get really comfortable with stillness and allowing your natural flow, your natural path to develop. And also knowing that you have power over that you can wake up today, you could wake up tomorrow and choose to be someone completely different. You could. We are changing and adapting moment by moment. Did you know that? Did you know that your brain, this is a cool little neurological fact that I have learned, and I am not perfect with this information, so this is probably like 93% accurate, but bear with me. Your brain, in any given moment, is only seeing like 0.00005% of what is actually reality. And that 0.00005% of what it is seeing is just based on what it's used to seeing. But again, it's only a fraction of what is actually available, what is actually true, what is actually reality around you. So you could, in any given moment, choose to snap out of your preconceived 0.00005% and choose to see something new in this moment. And guess what? That would activate an entirely new channel of seeing, an entirely new 0.005%. It would crack open the perspective of your reality in that moment based on your momentary choice. Have you ever had those moments where just like all of a sudden you get a surge of empowerment and you're just like, fuck no, I'm going to do this now. And then you just do it. Like, let's say it's working out. Let's say, you know what? I'm sick of existing in this space where I don't feel the health and vitality coursing through my body. I'm going to dedicate myself to empowering and strengthening and toning and working out, and so I feel strong. Have you ever had those moments? I know you have. Yeah, that's the fun part of being human. I know sometimes we forget that being human was supposed to be fun. Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be this entirely stressful thing. Yes, there is so many things about Earth experience that brings chaos and duality and complexity and feelings and emotions and energies that we don't always comprehend and we don't always understand, and sometimes make things feel more difficult than they actually are. Which reminds me, I saw this video the other day, just a little side tangent. And it was talking about, it was like a visual, an AI visual interpretation of how many people have described their mental breakthrough through the drug DMT. Now, I'm very strict with the types of substances I'm willing to experiment with. I tend to like things that grow from the ground and are to encourage a higher consciousness. Anyways, this video, I was watching the video, it was really, really cool. I can find a link if I can post it, whatever. But I was reading the comments of people's experiences with this particular drug and how throughout the course of so many people's, infinite people's different experiences, one thing remained the same, that they at some point met a higher being, a God, talked to themselves as a higher being, talked to higher dimensional entities, where the whole point of the conversation was laughing about how much we worry. when we are humans, how much we worry and we stress and how much anxiety courses through our daily veins, and how from that, higher consciousness perspective, a mind altering drug, they look at that and they realize how stupid that is. That every single person came back after their high or their trip or whatever you want to call it and was like, what was I stressing about? Why am I stressing? Anxiety for what? Because when you realize, when you breathe, when you're in those moments where you're meditating and you feel in tune with the world around you, you realize I am in a constant flow. I am in a relationship with a universe, with a source, with a God, with whatever you want to call it, that wants me to succeed, that wants me to discover, that wants me to receive. And when you realize that, you take some of the weight off of your daily decisions, because if I'm walking in confidence, sometimes it's just about how you're making the decision. Sometimes it's not even about the decision that you're actually making, the choice that you choose. Sometimes it's about the energy that you're in when you're making that choice. Like if you're stressing about money, like stressing, and you're stressing about this and you're stressing about that and you're stressing about whatever, and you choose in that moment out of that stressful space to do something about that, chances are it might yield you a little more stress because you're choosing to do it out of a specific space. But let's say that you're breathing in a completely different energy, you're relaxed, you feel in tune with the greater flow of everything, you believe that everything is intended to work out for you, and you're choosing to make a decision out of that energetic space. There's a sense of clarity, there's a sense of reciprocity that comes from that type of relationship with the choice. Again, doesn't even have to do with the actual choice that you're making, but how you're feeling when you're making that choice. I don't know, friends. I just thought we'd sit and chit chat for a sec. You can come swing on my little hammock with me. I'm trying not to kick you guys down. Usually I'd be having a little blast, swinging back and forth. This has been my little safe space. This has been my little safe space lately, where I've come out, sat on my hammock, and talked to the trees, and talked to the birds, and talked to Source, talked to myself, my higher self, the self that I'm becoming, the self that I'm witnessing the discovery of, and getting to know her. And that's fun, and that is exciting. And it's also fun to come and share this with you, to make this a conversation between beings that might resonate with that type of journey, what it looks like when you're just allowing yourself to unfold, allowing your life to unfold, and taking steps, taking choices, making decisions out of a sense of confidence and limitlessness and a trust in a grander flow that you are working together with. You know what I mean? I don't know, friends. I was listening to a Jadina video the other day. I love that fucking girl. Love her down bad, bitch. Anyways, and she gave some little homework to the collective she was reading for in the moment, and she said something in the video. It was a question, and it really got my brain thinking. It got my things churning. What's that word? You know what I'm talking about. What did she say? She said, "What would you know right now if you were pretending that you..." No, I fucked it up. Hold on. What would you know right now if you weren't pretending that you don't know? Does that make sense? What would you know right now if you were pretending, if you were no longer pretending to not understand? God, she said it so much better. I'm going to try one more time. You're probably sitting there like, we got it. We understand the point, but it's for my brain's processing. What would you know right now if you were no longer pretending like you didn't know? I think that's the closest we're going to get. But it's true, because sometimes in moments where we pretend like we're confused, in moments where we pretend like we don't know what the choice is, what the next choice is, what the next step is, we actually do. We actually do know. Sometimes we do know what we need to do. And sometimes we sit pretending like we don't, because it's really a lack of confidence. It's really a lack of confidence and trust that you do know, and not an actual space of I don't know. Sometimes I don't know is the greatest self-sabotage sentence that exists, because actually sometimes, honey, you do know. Actually, all the time you do know. You are built with an inner knowing. You are built with an intuition that is intended to guide you. And when you stop pretending like you are misinterpreting your intuition, when you actually breathe and realize and trust that you know a lot more than you think you do, a lot of times the answer just pops in your brain. And now the only step is to actually take the steps and do the thing. And there's my cute girlfriend taking our full ass trash can to the road. All right, friends. Now go make some choices. Go take some bold ass steps in your life out of a space of confidence and knowing that you're fucking capable of it. I love you.